Hi everyone! So, namiss ko kayo. So, I hope you had a very wonderful and well-rested academic break. And I hope you're all safe and still at home pa rin. But yeah, with the rising cases now, it's really crucial to be safe and to take precautions then, yeah. So we're back with another video. So this is chapter 3. And I want to congratulate you pala sa inyong midterm exam. Almost all of you. Lahat naman pumasa, but uh, I am proud na almost all a had exceeded the passing score. Yeah. So congratulations and job well done. You deserve it. Yeah. So this is chapter 3 and this is about developing listening skills and watching skills. So basically, this talks about how important listening is. So sabi dito, if in all practices of life we could learn to listen, if we could grasp what the other persons are saying as they themselves understand what they are saying, the major hostilities of life would disappear for the simple reason that misunderstanding would disappear. So, listening is a skill that is often neglected or taken for granted. Kasi minsan na misinterpret natin ang listening to hearing. Okay, so meron din tayong ginagawa na we listen not with the intention of understanding it, but with the intention of replying. So yun yung mali natin eh. Uh, when we are talking to someone, hindi na natin masyadong iniintindi yung kanyang sinasabi, bagkus naka-focus tayo sa kung anong i-response natin. So, doon natin makikita how we often neglect the importance of listening. So, sabi nga ulit, we should learn to listen. It may be as simple as you think, but that is so hard. Because, for your information lang um, tayo ay may approximately 20 minutes attention span. So it's hard when you are to listen a 4-hour lecture. Alam ko naranasan 'yan alam ko nararanasan 'yan at naranasan ko 'yan dahil before I became a teacher, I was once a student. And yeah, and dito sa ating lesson, listening as a member of a live audience, a student is one example of a listener of a live audience, especially sa classroom natin na most of the time, teacher does the talking and we do all the listening. And dun nga natin makukuha yung ating needed information, needed skills, yan mga yan. So, it all starts with listening. So, yan yung among the 5 macro skills na alam kong ulit-ulit ko na dito sa lecture natin from the past. Um, Among those 5 macro skills, the listening, writing, speaking, reading, and viewing, one important thing to learn and to master is your skill of listening. So, the lesson 1 is about listening as a member of a live audience. So, at the end of this lesson, you'll be able to discuss the essential components for active listening, identify the various requisites for good listening, express opinions and etiquette guidelines to be a great audience member, and apply listening skills to interpret information from a public lecture and understanding the main idea of a debate. So most of the time, uh, as a student, most of the time, nakaka-experience tayo ng seminars, lectures, lahat ng mga yan, it requires our attention. And sabi ko nga kanina, we have this normal attention span of 20 minutes. And most of those seminars, nag-range siya from 1 hour to 4 hours. So, napakahirap i-maintain yung ating listening or attention span without distractions. Dahil tayo, it's so hard na not to be distracted nowadays kasi we have phones, we have games, we have books, kung ano-ano man yung tinitingnan natin. most of the time, nadidistract talaga tayo. So, sabi nga dito, listening is one of the two dimensions of communication. So, ang una is speaking and the other one is listening. So, great speakers are often given awards for honors about speaking. Best speaker, speaker of the year, debater of the year. Lahat yan ina-awardan pero wala kang narinig na inawardan ng best in listening, 'di ba? Best listener. Walang ina-awardan ng gano'n. Mostly sa speaking talaga na ina-award. Pero alam nyo ba na before you, sabi nga dito, before you speak, read or write, you listen first. So, for example, how will you learn to listen in front of a crowd kung hindi mo mismo nakita yun sa ina-admire mong speaker? So, ako, I'm not of a speaker noon nung estudyante ako kasi I was really silent. I was a shy type and I had this personality na very silent sa room. I rarely talk talaga. I only speak pag kinakailangan talaga. And most of my classmates did not expect na I would become a teacher. What helped me sa teaching talaga is the way I listened to my professors. The way I can recall how they manage our class. So, that is through listening and through observing how it works. And dun mo makikita talaga na if you really uh, listen comprehensively and attentively, you will acquire the knowledge that you are looking for. So, listening establishes you in your life situation. It develops and maintains your meaningful relations with your family, friends, teachers, mentors, counselors, and administrations. So, nag-i-start ang listening sa ating family. Lahat nga ng learning, nag-uumpisa talaga sa family, hindi naman talaga sa school. And sa ating family, din natin makikita how we neglect listening. Dahil, kunwari, nanarmon si nanay, dun nga sabi ko, we don't listen with the intention or with the intent to understand, but we listen with the intent to reply. So, nangyayari yun mismo sa ating family dahil we defend ourselves or we oppose our parents most of the times. And dun mo makikita how poor our listening skills are. So, yun. As students, you often engage yourself as a member of a live audience. Yung sinasabi ko kanina sa classroom, conferences, meetings, seminars, and forums. So, in order for you to maximize learning from these, listening plays an important part. So, as a member of a live audience, it is imperative that you must be able to hone your listening skills and to observe etiquette guidelines for you to be a great audience member. Remember, hindi naman tayo forever na lang makikinig sa gilid. Dahil later, mamaya sa other parts of this lecture, makikita nyo na through listening and through your experience, you will become a great speaker or you will become an influential speaker, an inspirational speaker. So, dun mo makikita how listening is a stepping stone to success. When you learn the art of listening, when you learn how to manage your attention span and really work on your listening skills, one day you will realize that it has helped you to become a great person and a purposeful person. Yeah, and yeah, sabi, listening is a continuing process that includes not only perception but also interpretation, assimilation, association, and reaction. So when the listener perceives the speaker's sounds, he must remember them long enough to interpret their meaning, bring his own and associate meaning, then respond to them. So sabi dito, the listener does this very fast as he continues following the speaker's flow of auditory and visual stimuli. So learning, therefore, is a full attention and a continuing process. So, hindi natin masabi na master listener na tayo ngayon or na-master na natin ang art of listening. Dahil ako, kahit I've been a student na for 6, 10, 14, 14, 15, 16 years and counting dahil I'm having my masteral. I always have this hard time of listening, and my retention span is very messy. Kaya, ano, ewan ko kung narinig niyo ng Pomodoro style ng listening or yung study habit na 20 minutes kang nag-study and then you have certain breaks. So, yun din yung purpose ko why I record my lectures. Kasi there are students that cannot um cannot process their thoughts during a 7 a.m. class. And there are students who cannot process their thoughts during tanghali, sa noon, or sa afternoon, or sa night. So, I choose to record na lang my vids kasi I am a student too and I know your struggles. Especially now during the pandemic, it's really hard to push yourself to study kasi ang daming distractions and all. So, yun yung reason talaga why I chose to record these lectures. So, the process of listening is often contrasted with hearing. So, sabi dito, according to Ludstein, hearing is considered as a physical act, while listening is a mental act. So, hearing, sabi nga, pag nakikinig ka ng music, ang naririnig mo lang sa hearing is yung tune. Naririnig mo lang yung music na piniplay. While ang listening is something na when you hear the music, you can interpret what the message is conveying or what the message yung pinaparating sa iyo. So yun yung pagkakaiba ng hearing and listening. Hearing is the mere way of listening, yung pagrinig mo ng mga tune, yan, mga yan, lyrics, and yung listening is a part of the interpretation. Yon. So, we have components of listening. So, number one is volition. Volition is, ang ibig sabihin nun is your power to choose or your power to make your own decisions. So, in volition, sabi nga, a listener must first want to listen before he can be able to listen. So it is your choice whether you want to listen. That's the reason why then I record my videos kasi it is your choice whether you want to listen this in this specific time or you want to study this specific time. So dun mo makikita how volition is important in the learning process. Kasi when you don't intend to choose to listen, then you won't be able to fully grasp what the lesson is all about. So, sabi nga rin, he does not only observe the words passively, but actively tries to grasp the facts and feelings in what he hears. So, volition or the will to listen is the first component of effective listening. So, you must be willing to listen. Sabi nga nila, ewan ko kung ano yung exact na sinabi sa amin noon ng teacher namin, but when you enter a classroom daw, with a full memory na of the topics, then you should leave the classroom. Kasi there's a tendency na you won't listen na. And hindi naman sinasabi nito na pumasok ka sa classroom nang walang alam talaga. But this is just implying na you should enter a classroom with that willingness to learn. Kasi when you're not willing to learn, there's a possibility na lahat ng sasabihin ng teacher ay ino-oppose mo na or sabi mo, yun ba yun? Parang hindi naman. So lahat or possibly, ang gagawin natin, yung sasabihin ng teacher, dinudugtungan na natin, hindi pa na niya nasasabi, nadudugtungan na natin. And come to think of it, may natutunan ka ba talaga? Or inuunahan mo lang yung teacher so kung anong sasabihin niya? So, yun, balik tayo doon. Hindi naman sinasabi na pumasok ka sa classroom nang walang alam. Ang sinasabi lang is, pumasok ka sa classroom with the willingness to learn. So, volition is very important. Number 2 is focused attention. So, if your mind wanders and if you try to jump ahead to what the speakers might say, you're apt to miss the important points or information. Nangyayari din yan nung ako estudyante. Especially when the teacher speaks slowly, there's a tendency na almost lahat ng sasabihin niya nadudugtungan na. And nami-miss ko na yung parang nami-miss out ko yung mga important points kasi I was so focused on waiting for that teacher to end the line kasi dinudugtungan mo na nga. So, yun yung parang hindi na rin effective yung learning mo pag ganun. And then, sabi nga, if you want to listen effectively, you must free your mind from any apprehensions. So, sabi dito, it is hard to listen when you are talking or when you're thinking for a response. So, ako, most of the time, when I talk, after the talk, I forget what I just said. Kaya ang nangyayari, pag nagle-lecture ako, I replay my videos. And minsan natatawa na lang ako, wala, bakit ko nasabi yun? Ala, bakit parang mali naman yung pagkasabi ko? Dahil wala akong naalala. After I talk, parang, yeah, natapos ko yung lecture, pero hindi ko talaga maalala what I just said. So, yun nga sinasabi, it is hard to listen when you're talking, and it is hard to listen then when you're thinking for a response. So, i-balance out nyo. So, if you want to listen effectively, yun, try to have a focused attention. Number 3 is perception. So, this means that you must be aware of the elements of the message, speaker, and context. Also, it implies that you must be able to be receptive and open to messages. So, receptive means you are willing to consider or accept the new suggestions and ideas. Kasi, yun nga sinasabi ko kanina, when your memory is very full of information, there's a tendency na you won't accept what the speaker is talking about. So, you are so bounded with what you have read or what you have heard na pag may narinig kang bagong ideas, you won't accept na. So, sabi dito, you must be able to be receptive. So, very important ang yung pagiging receptive mo. Dahil doon mo makikita na you're willing to learn, and alam mo you are hungry and you are thirsty for new information. So, yun, that's very important um when you want to be a successful person. Next, ayun, sabi, when the individuals are unwilling to listen to others, a critical part of communication is lost. Number 4 is capacity to interpret messages and meanings of the others. So the process of interpretation includes understanding. So in interpreting the message, you usually make sense of that message based on your own experience. So, ang sinasabi lang dito is, it is crucial or it is important na we don't stop experiences from happening. Kasi minsan takot na tayo na mag-experience ng bad things. But, come to think of it, when you experience hardship, when you have experienced tribulations, trials, and persecutions and negative things, negative vibes, pag na-overcome mo lahat yun, you will have a message na is unique to others. So sabi dito, when you have the capacity to interpret and reflect on, kunwari, nagsalita ang speaker and then you reflect based on their own experience to your experience, you will have that certain connection. So that means each message understood is a creative process. So it also implies that you are limited by your own experience. So a person may be highly motivated to learn if the message is within his ability to interpret. That's why kanina pa ako nag-example na sinasabi ko na I was once a student and I'm also a student right now, because that way I can connect to you and I can create that rapport na you will learn the message that I am conveying in the level of intellect that you would understand and interpret it. Kasi we share the same struggles, parang ganun. Yes. And then number 5 is remembering. So in critical listening situations, you need to consciously and actively include your ability to recall information conveyed. So though oftentimes you remember without exerting any effort. Kasi minsan tayo, most of the time, during the day, especially pag students tayo, wala na tayong ina-exert na so much effort when we listen. Kasi parang, and then when we remember, kasi parang naging ano na siya sa atin eh, parang hindi na siya bago, parang routine na siya. But, yun nga, you need to be active in listening. Kasi, there's a difference between a passive listening and an active listening. When you are passive, parang yung ideas and thoughts, dumadaan lang. You did not interpret it. Basta naintindihan mo na, okay. And then, it will just vanish. But when you're an active listener, there's a tendency na you will reflect, you will understand it, you will interpret it, and you will connect it to your own life. So, paano mo i-connect yung sinabi ng teacher na yun sa iyong buhay? Parang mga ganun. So, that is a part of remembering. Next, response. Response is very essential in the completion of good listening process. So, usually after understanding a complete thought, it is important that you have a feedback to the speaker, giving him an idea as how you have perceived the message. That's why as speakers then we look for, as teachers then we look forward for your response na parang, ma'am, I did not understand this lesson, or ma'am, I learned a lot from this lesson. So your response is a parang a reassurance then on our part na parang, oh, at least meron kaming na-share, parang ganon. So your response is very essential in the completion of good listening process. And that way, we can also assess din na you have listened throughout the lecture. Kasi that's the reason din, pag nagbabasa ako ng comments sa YouTube na may mga kino-quote silang lines na I would then realize na dun pa pala sa last part yon. And that's an implication na you really have finished the lecture. So, that is parang a bonus na lang on our part na parang at least, yun, may nanggagawa tayo sa mundo. Yun. So, our response is very important. Next, human beings. So, in listening, you must always be receptive to the personal element. So, in both personal and business lives, people are the most important resource. Thus, listening empowers people, eventually enhancing their relationships. So, receptive means you are willing to listen. So, you listen for information, but always remember that uh, information is colored and given meaning by person needs and concerns. So all information, however, is only meaningful as it describes and relates to human condition. Yun yung sinasabi ko kanina na it is important din na you welcome experiences. You welcome new experiences. Kasi in that way, uh, hindi mo aakalain na one day, magiging speaker ka din. One day, you will speak through a crowd and you will realize na that experience is your exact message, is the message that they uh intended to hear, that they are intended to hear and they want to hear. So do not be afraid of new experiences. Yes. Next, we have requisites for good listening. So aside from considering the components of effective listening, it is also vital to look into some various requisites to remember good listening. So number one is listener must know the purpose for listening. So when you listen for a certain music or a certain podcast or a certain lecture, what is your purpose? So you need to ask yourself, what is my purpose in listening this lecture? It is just to merely pass my subject or to really learn and to change myself into a better person. So you need to assess yourself what kind of a person you want to be and what kind of a person you are now. So that way, you will know your purpose of listening. Next, under that is to obtain information and gain knowledge, make intellectual judgments, to evaluate ideas, make fair criticisms, and to appreciate and enjoy. However, there's one definite purpose in listening. In one listening session, all of the above may be present, but a good listener pays more attention to one definite goal. Having a definite purpose in listening will guide you on what to listen for. So when you are listening, kunwari in my lecture, among these five reasons, this one, what is your main purpose? So magstick ka dun. What is your main goal ba? Is it to appreciate and enjoy my subject? Is it to evaluate ideas? Or is it to obtain information and gain knowledge? So, dun mo muna i-assess yung sarili mo. What is really your purpose in listening? The things that you listen to. Next, number 2. The listener must understand and interpret symbols used by the speaker. So this listener must listen to various changes in tone and melody of speaker's voice to interpret meaning more accurately. So, marami tayong just a purpose of kung natakle niyo yung first year kayo, we have nonverbal cues. And nonverbal cues is your symbols. Then, kasi, kunwari, um, when the speaker is pointing towards that subject, and hindi na niya sinabi na to the right, basta sinabi niya lang there. So, there's a tendency na, when you understand and interpret those symbols, hindi mo na kailangan pa ng very wordy speech from the speaker kasi you can interpret his symbols. Another way is the tone of the voice. When the tone of the voice of the speaker is so high and very fast na talaga na parang nagpe-preach na siya, that is called a momentum. Na talagang nandun na siya sa momentum niya to really speak his ideas or his or her ideas. So, makikita mo doon. Or, pag stutter, tulad ko na yun nga, nabubulol, and so on and so forth, there's a tendency na that's a symbol of me being anxious, again, in front of the camera, or me being tired, or me being unfocused on the things that I teach. So, those are the things that you need to reconsider and you need to understand. Yes, that is in order to understand how the speaker conveys his lesson or his message. Next, number 3, the listener must put himself in a place of the speaker so he can understand the thoughts and feelings that started from his mind that he wants to transmit to his listeners. For example, may speaker tayo na former drug addict and hindi mo fully talaga mag-grasp yung importance ng message niya, or hindi ka sobrang matatouch sa message niya when you don't try to put yourself in his shoes. So, pag naririnig mo yung certain speaker na would share about the hardship of his life, try to put yourself in that person's shoes, and then you will realize more and you will appreciate more the message of the speaker. So yun. Number 4 is the listener must concentrate while listening. So he must put all his attention on what to listen for. So there may be this distractions on while you're listening. So, but these can be overcome by determination, practice, and perseverance. So, uh, nung estudyante ako, at hanggang ngayon estudyante pa rin ako, when I study, I see to it na yung aking cellphone naka-turn off ang wifi and naka-turn off ang ang tawag dito, ang notifications, naka-silent siya dahil I easily get distracted, especially when the Wi-Fi is open. So, there's a tendency na habang nag-study ako, I would get it and scroll ulit. Kasi, we have this habit na of scrolling. Kahit wala namang very interesting sa Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We have this habit of scrolling and hindi na natin namamalayan na it parang kunuha na nun yung 2 to 3 hours of our time. So, yun. You must concentrate while listening. So, the listener must concentrate under healthful, comfortable, and peaceful environment conditions. Silent too is important while listening. So, ano yung sinasabi doon? So, um, sabi dito, the quieter you become, the more you can hear. Kasi minsan tayo, we have the tendency to when yung mga tao sa paligid natin, yung paligid natin ay sobrang ingay, there's a tendency na dumadagdag pa tayo sa ingay eh. Kasi parang nadadala tayo. Isipin nyo to, pag nasa crowd ka, tapos biglang nagtayuan lahat at nagpalakpakan, di ba nadadala ka din kahit, hindi mo alam na kung anong pinapalakpakan, basta pumalakpak ka na lang. So, ganun din yung nangyayari sa atin when the world, especially now during the pandemic and many things sa ating government issues and all, pag sobrang ingay na, there's a tendency for us na we react and, uh, yun, we unknowingly, say things that we don't really intend to say. So, yun, nga, sabi, the quieter you become, the more you can hear. So, you really need that certain quiet space or that certain silence for you to really reflect and hear ano yung mga problema sa mundo. Kasi kung sasabay ka rin dun sa ingay, hindi ka na dumagdag dun sa hindi ka na dumagdag dun sa mga taong tutulong. Bagkus dinagdagan mo pa yung problema ng mga taong tutulong. So, ang gagawin mo, you should be the one, uh, you should be that one person that is helping. So, wag ka nang dumagdag, wag mo nang dagdagan. I'm not exempting myself here, but yun, this is an advocation din of us na yun, take that certain time to be silent. I know we have the right to speak up, but we should balance it. Speak when you need to speak and listen when you need to listen. Okay? Next. Number 5 is, okay. The listener must be open-minded because this will help him in the place of the speaker to understand his message from his point of view and to look at it in the same way as the speaker does. So you should be open-minded. Yun yung sinasabi ko, open to new ideas, open to new informations, and so on and so forth. Next, number 6, the listener must be courteous while listening. So he must listen first. He must allow people to speak out their thoughts and see things from their vantage point. Understand first before reacting, but remember to react courteously. This will bring forth a beautiful relationship, lasting friendship, and a mature intellectual development and happier and fuller life for both the speaker and the listener. Oh, okay. Pag hindi pa yung naintindihan yon, read it again. Ang sinasabi lang dun is you need to be courteous in all things. You need to be courteous in speaking, in listening. So you need to have that certain respect. Kasi, yun, yeah. Alam nyo na yan. Next, number 7. The listener must be able to play the role of the speaker. If he is now able to take the role of a speaker and can make the listener react and interact, then he must have been a good listener. So, dun mo makikita kung naging speaker ka na and nakita mo sa crowd mo na nagnanod sila, nagre-respond sila, tumatawa sila, nagre-react sila sa'yo, then dun mo makikita na you have been a good listener. So, uh, yung lahat ng sinasabi ko ngayon, almost all came from the lectures that I've heard from my teachers. So, basically, uh, hindi ako yung tao na ako ngayon if I didn't listen. So, that's the importance of listening. Next, we have factors that affect listening. Number 1 is physical and mental state. So, listening requires energy and focus. So, sabi nga dito, if we were supposed to talk more than we listen, we would have two tongues and one ear. So, kung ang tao ay talagang kailangang magsalita ng magsalita, dapat dalawa ang kanyang dila at iisa lang ang tenga. Pero most of the time, ang tenga natin dalawa. So, dapat most of the time ay we listen. So, listening requires energy and focus. And that is so hard to find when your energy level is affected of your stress, when you're tired, when you're angry, or you're sleepy. So, yun nga yung sinasabi ko kanina, I record my videos for you to be flexible, for it to be flexible. Hindi mo ipipilit ang learning when your student is stressed. Hindi mo ipipilit ang learning when your student is tired. Hindi mo ipipilit ang learning when the student is sleepy in a 7 a.m. class. So, yun yung sinasabi na your physical and mental state can affect your listening. And if you have poor listening skills, that can affect the success of your learning journey. Yes. Next, number 2. prejudices. So this is defined as a prejudgment, or you have this certain bias, or a belief that has already been formed and may not be based on facts. So it's very natural to have previous prejudices about topics, ideas, issues, events, and even people. So, however, this may block the and affect the real listening. So, kung for example, the speaker is talking about holiness, ayun, and you knew, you parang kilala mo yung tao na yun na a certain time of his life, he was unholy. So when you have that prejudice, or you have that prejudgment na, oh, he's speaking about holiness, but I knew na a certain time of his life he was unholy. So there's that effect na hindi ka na makikinig kasi you have that prejudgment na. So, yun nga, you need to listen with a clear mind. Alisin mo lahat ng judgments and all. And you listen with the intent to understand talaga. And not with the intent to reply and judge that certain speaker. That's very important. Number three is environment. So, the physical setting around you may affect the listening process. Yes, this is very true. Kasi when that place is not conducive for learning, there's a tendency na you will compromise learning and hindi ka talaga matututo. Kaya, uh, I am not your typical morning person talaga. I don't study during the day. I know we have different preferences, but I really cannot study during the day because ang daming distractions, especially kanina naririnig nyo, kahit gabi na ngayon, may narinig kayong tumatahol, may narinig kayong mga sasakyan. So that's so hard. Kaya I know I salute you all. I salute my students for just surviving this whole school year. I know it's so hard, especially sa bahay. Kahit nag-online class, biglang sasigaw ng nanay, oh, yung hugasin, oh, yung ganito. So, you have this certain distraction and it's so hard. But, ayun, at least I can see na yun, we are all striving naman. Yun. Listeners must also have to bear with a number of environmental factors like temperature, noise, space, lack of water, smoke, and other people. So good listeners try to overcome the effects of a poor listening environment. So sabi nga, kaya nga pa nag-seminar, mostly, hiniheld nila sa mga coliseum, sa mga lugar na may good ventilation, medyo air condition naman, kasi that is one way to help the listener focus on the message. Next, we have etiquette and guidelines to be a great audience member. So, I know this is very self-explanatory, pero i-run through na lang natin. So, number one is to be a great audience member, it requires respect. You need to be courteous. In all aspects of life, you need to be courteous and you need to respect. Kasi you must respect the presenter, your teacher, and the other audience members, and yourself. So, when you have that willingness to learn, when you respect the speaker, there's a tendency na lahat ng sasabihin niya, you can fully grasp it, and you can fully interpret it, and you can fully reflect on it. Number two is you must create a supportive and focused atmosphere. Remember that the success of a presentation depends on your part as an audience. So, if you're not supportive, kunwari, ngayon kasi hindi tayo face-to-face. Pero pag face-to-face siya, you need to at least nod, at least smile back sa teacher mo. Or kahit nanonood ka ng video lecture ko ngayon, hindi mo namamalayan na you nod, certain times na, mapapaganon ka. So, that is an implication na you are a supportive member of that certain live audience. And that is really important then. Next, number three is listening attentively is one of the most basic elements of being a great audience member and one of those important skills anyone can learn. So avoid activities that will distract the presentation, especially your cell phones. So I know it's so hard nowadays to listen talaga. Yung sasabi ko kanina. So, yun, help the presenter deliver the presentation that you deserve by not doing anything except to listen. So, that's very important. Make sure that you put your gadgets in silent mode. Feel free to clap at the end of the lesson or at the end of the presentation. Feel free to ask questions, and if you see or hear something during the presentation that you like the most, let the presenter know after the presentation or the evaluation. So, kunwari, after ng lecture na to, after nyo napanood, you can, um, you can highlight some certain points na naka-reflect kayo or natamaan kayo or na-touched kayo. So, in that way, we will know then as a speaker, ano pa ba yung mas ipo-point out namin sa next lesson. Or pag may hindi kayo naintindihan, you can always message us na, Ma'am, hindi ko masyado naintindihan yung part na to. So that way, we can really know that you listen during the class discussions or you listen during the forum. Keep in mind that each live presentation is an entirely unique experience. So, what you're participating in will never occur twice. So, you need to, uh, parang ano ba yung, ang tinatawag doon, you need to have this mindset na this will never, this will never be repeated na. So, whatever you have heard, you must at least write it down or you must at least bear it in mind and in your heart. Kasi, yan nga, hindi mo na yung maririnig eh. One way or another, you will be that certain speaker naman na magsasabi, magre-relay sa message na yun. So, and the last one is enjoy yourself. Yan. And that's the end of our topic 1, lesson 1. So, ayun, yung sinasabi ko lang kanina is, um, one certain day, darating ang panahon na you are not just listeners, but also speakers. So, practice the art of listening and, yeah, reflect on how listening can really help you become a better person. So, again, listening is very normal na and something that's not uh, really parang calculus sa atin. Listening is something very basic, but we really need to master all of the yung sinabi ko kanina mga factors and requisites to really achieve that certain listening skills. Ayun, so uh, God bless everyone. I hope you have learned something and I'll see you sa lesson 2. Bye!